Walking into a university lecture hall can feel like stepping into a data storm. Hundreds of overlapping concepts, terms, and data points hit you at once. The sheer volume and speed of the information a lecturer delivers in 50 minutes is staggering. Faced with this barrage, many students, especially those navigating a second language, instinctively attempt to transcribe every single spoken word. This brute force method leads directly to cognitive overload. By trying to capture everything, you process nothing, and the core concepts slip away in the noise. Expert listeners survive the lecture hall by actively filtering the noise rather than attempting to absorb it. They treat the academic lecture as a deliberate, highly organized architecture. This architecture relies on a repeating layer of meta-vocabulary to hold its components together. Mastering the lecture format requires shifting your focus away from the subject matter and tuning your attention strictly to this structural skeleton. Linguists refer to this structural meta-vocabulary as signposting language. These phases function as an explicit, real-time map provided directly by the lecturer to indicate where the argument is going. Identifying these markers allows you to bypass complex jargon and predict the lecture's trajectory. Look at this dense block of academic text. If we filter out the subject-specific terminology, we are left with these glowing connective phrases. Isolated from the content, these markers automatically arrange themselves into a clean, hierarchical outline. Learning to isolate this signposting wireframe provides a starting point for parsing complex lectures in real time. Building this model starts with identifying the macro-level nodes, the broad signposts that govern the entire hour. This requires dual cognitive tracking, monitoring the raw audio stream while actively building a mental map of the framework. You begin by listening for overview phrases, which typically occur in the first few minutes of the presentation. This textbook excerpt highlights the mechanics. The study tip box specifically explains that lecturers use language to guide the listener, so you know exactly what is coming next. Once the overview establishes the goal, you shift focus to sequencing phrases that organize the upcoming timeline of the argument. When a lecturer says, "First, we'll look at," and follows it with, "Then we'll move on," they are carving the continuous audio into discrete chapters. These sequencers act as binding promises to the audience. They tell you exactly how many main arguments to expect, allowing you to prepare mental compartments for the data. These macro navigation phrases act as the load-bearing walls of the lecture, providing the shape of the hour before the complex data begins. With the broad chapters established, the next phase is micro-navigation within those specific sections. The challenge is knowing exactly when a lecturer is delivering a high-value data point versus general background context. Academics frequently use a specific grammatical tool as an audio spotlight, the W clause. This textbook page shows the grammar in action. The blue academic language box explains that structures beginning with what, why, where, or how draw immediate attention to specific information. As seen in the examples, these clauses frame upcoming intentions, spatial locations, or methodological challenges. The mechanical rule here is consistent. The W clause warns the listener that the core data, or critical evaluation, will arrive in the second half of that sentence. By identifying what clauses, you conserve cognitive energy, waiting to engage active attention until the audio spotlight activates. The final phase involves tracking the real-time movements between these ideas. Lecturers rely on transition phrases to manage shifts, whether they are linking back to an earlier concept or changing the subject entirely. This transcript exercise isolates linking phrases used to guide logic. In lines A and E, the phrases, "what we are interested in," and "that brings us already to," show how the lecturer moves from a general premise to a specific challenge. Signposts are not strictly audio cues. They also tether the spoken lecture to the physical visual aids in the room. Verbal markers like, "as you can see," or "so if we look at the slide," provide the explicit link between a stream of speech and a complex chart. Recognizing these contextual transitions prevents you from losing the connection between spoken arguments and visual evidence. Now we assemble these macro and macro components into a single mental model. Faced with a complex lecture, we start with an empty structural wireframe. We populate the connective tissue using the signposting markers we've identified. When the dense academic data arrives, it drops into these predefined boxes, organized by the connective signposts. The operational rule for the student is to separate the organizational structure from the raw content. This technique transforms the lecture into a process of predictive parsing. By decoding the meta-language, you can navigate the information flow and participate actively.